Well, welcome, Ravi. Ravi Shankar is founder CEO of Active.AI, and Active.AI is Singapore-based. It has arms in India. It has arms and legs in the US. Active.AI is a key fintech player, and I know Ravi likes to call himself that. Well, he is an entrepreneur. He's a techpreneur. That's the most fashionable word these days. But before that, Ravi was a former banker, and he spent solid years with HDFC, ABN Amro, Yes Bank. I have him here today to shed particular light on his area of expertise, which is artificial intelligence. But I love to do a little bit of homework before I pick his brains. Ravi, we have come a long, long way from the days of John McCarthy, 1955, Stanford University. He's the guy, I believe, who coined the two terms artificial intelligence. And I like what was written about him, saying, simple logic, program with common sense. We're going to go down that path today because he described a system which was to evolve intelligence of a human order.
Right.
And I'm going to throw the very first question to you, Ravi, unless you wanted to say something before this whole thing launched.
No, please go ahead.
Well, where did this term machine learning come from? ML, so much talked about.
I think the human mind is so curious in most ways, right? So for longest period of time, man has tried to make machines think like the way he does, right? And so the whole concept of self-teaching computers is the simplest form of way in which you can describe this whole machine learning thing. Right? It's a subset of artificial intelligence, which has also a couple of more subsets, deep learning and neural networks that go below it, right? But the whole approach of mankind has been from, I think, somewhere around the 1955, and then IBM in 1959, and then finally the famous Turing test to say, can a machine actually, be like human, right? So if you go back 60 years, for 60 years we've been troubled with this whole problem to say, how can we make machines think like humans, right? So machine learning came from that, and there were two big legs to this. One is how do you make them smarter, so the algorithms. But what do the algorithms feed off, which is data? And unless you have both of this working in tandem, right, there's no way machines can automatically improve, right? They have to constantly improve. So then you have supervision. So who supervises them? Then the humans come into play. So you act like the boss and the dictator and whatever to say, no machine, you did this right, no machine, you did this wrong. Then we figure out why you did this wrong, because maybe your algorithm was not right or your data was not right. So you went through this iterative process for many years until today you have machines and algorithms which correct themselves in our machine learning, which works unsupervised. And soon you'll have a day where, around the corner where machines will take over your life and they'll tell you what to do. That's coming.
Oh,
Right. So if you really start looking at Boston Dynamics and some of these guys who make these crazy machines, well, they're coming for you. And it's all machine learning.
Are you on our side, Ravi, or are you on the other side?
Well, I am on the side which tries to improve this one small step a day for a very specific purpose, which is in the financial technology area, fintech, so banking, insurtech, and payment tech, and whatever. The big thing about machine learning is that you can't go very broad-based. Everybody is very, very narrow-based, very scope-based, very deep into what they do for two reasons. One is the quality of data that you get, and then you work on that and sharpen and the performance and the efficiency and the acceptability of that in the industry. So there are thousands of companies out there working on machine learning, which is the most common of what artificial intelligence is, but everybody's scope is fairly narrow and very deep, right? So that's how you can get more successful. That's a very interesting area. It's very, look at it like research. Look at it like medical research, and you go down to one specific problem, and then you work hard on that problem for years and try and refine your data each time to make it more perfect. So that's how complex this industry is.
So, Ravi, you're into what you call conversational banking services.
Right.
How would you define that further for us?
Well, just like you and I having a conversation, anything about money involves a conversation. And when you have conversations, there are things that you would like to know. And usually, when you go to a bank branch, you meet a teller, or you meet a relationship manager, or you go to an insurance advisor, you have conversations and you have points where you would seek advice from these people, right? And the other person responds because he's understanding what you're saying. So what's exchanged is actually data. And the other person who's receiving the data that you're saying is trying to interpret it because he understands that from past, from his own algorithms in his head. So conversational banking tries to emulate that by saying, can I give you your own teller who's actually a machine and who understands all that you're saying and can execute it for you robotically, right? Almost, right? Seamlessly as a human. Now, that could be through text, voice, speech. It could be through imagery, or video and stuff like that, right? So we use the term conversational banking very generically, but at the end of the day, it's a whole bunch of algorithms which deals with unstructured data. So what I'm speaking to you is unstructured. It's not planned. You don't even know what I'm going to say right now. So can I make sense of what you're saying as a machine and respond back to you intelligently with the data that you need, having understood what you said? So conversationally, what we're trying to do is to make machines as smart as relationship managers, advisors, customer service executives, so that you can have immense scale at the same time, right? So that's the whole idea. It was very useful in the pandemic because all the bank branches had shut down, the call centers had shut down. So worldwide, all our customers actually survived, I would say, thanks to a technology, because we were answering millions of questions every hour, right? So that's how it goes.
Were there any unanswered questions?
There are always unanswered questions because machines are still not that smart, and you're always training them. And this is unstructured, so it's even more complex as you go by. So when I say unstructured, it's not like a pre-framed, question that you always read from the same question. Like you may come and say, "What's my balance?" Somebody else may come and say, "How much money do I have?" Both mean the same, but what response would you give? You can't train. You can't train what kind of balance I have in 100 different ways and hope the machine will understand. So there will be options where it'll fail. And the idea is to identify those failure points and train the machine back through algorithms to say,
Let's
listen.
invite Vivek for a question.
Yeah, we've been, Ravi, we've been sort of been aware of machine learning for a very, very long time, and have been told that data is and as you said, algorithms, but if the data is not good enough, your algorithms can do nothing with it.
Exactly.
Now, how much data is enough? That's the question. Let me ask you a more relevant question. Let's say I want to be able to profile a person who's buying insurance compared to 3-4 other people in my list. I have 5 people, and I want to determine which one is more likely to buy insurance today, okay, and which product he is more likely to go for. Now, I have very little data about him, and I have pretty much data available of what others have bought, but I'm not sure whether the limited number of data points that I have on him can be enough to do such a profiling. Is it possible? And
No, sir. It is absolutely not possible. You'll end up with, unless you're lucky and you make the right call. So your data, like you said, your data is the oil, right? When the people say data is the new oil, it is about how much data you have and how much data is required to make even some small part of the judgment, right? So you need tremendous amounts of data points to make that call that you just explained as a problem statement.
Right. How do you decide on that? What is enough?
Correct. So, if you'll allow me a few minutes, I will just walk you through some of the parts of this, because there are many parts of machine learning which get into play here in just this one problem statement that you just stated. For example, if I was using conversational tools, then I would ask you for 400 different points of data over conversations, which could be just a part of a questionnaire, which I'm randomly generating for you. I'll start with your name, where is your location? I may not even ask your location because I can get that from APIs. And then I'll start understanding, okay, what data points do I have of people from this location? Then I'll ask you for your age. And then I'll start profiling that to the back end of the kind of data points that I have for people of that area, that age, and whatever, right? Then I start asking questions around your health, your habits, your activities, and a whole bunch. So I'm starting to build data points around you. So no different from an advisor. So this is one part of machine learning, which is using unstructured tools to gather information. The second point actually comes into the real data science. What do I do with this data? How am I processing this data? And statistically, how is it becoming relevant to make a proper decision or a recommendation beyond that? So then the applied machine learning comes into play, where you start looking at data analytics and also statistics to start building models for your situation. So a simple problem statement that you just asked me actually involves a whole bunch of areas of super specialization within just machine learning. And if I was to reflect back and say what kind of teams I'm starting to look at, I'm looking at various kinds of data science teams and also machine learning experts within the same organization. And this is typically the problem that exists in the industry. Where do you find so many people? And where do you find so many people who can play with so many different kinds of data and become super specialists in each? So you actually have specialization, at very small vertical level. So we are only conversational. We do some amount of predictive stuff, but that's because we got tremendous amounts of data from globally. We didn't get into predictive until we actually knew what data we were consuming. So that is the scope of the industry. And that is why even today, insurance companies are really terrible when it comes to differentiating and making a policy for me. There is no personalization. There is no understanding of my needs. I'm the same 35 or 45 or 55-year-old in the brackets that has been there as an algorithm done by my actual business inside my insurance company for the last 45 years. And that's why it's going to get disrupted, right? So there are companies who have more data, and we'll come to that shortly.
I have, Ravi, thank you. I have Raj Swaminathan, who is quite a veteran in the financial services space. Raj, would you
Hi,
like to
Raj.
come in?
Hey,
Ravi,
Raj.
most interesting
Yes.
conversation. When you mentioned the fact about limited access to data, it's also a question of what organizations are supposed to have and what organizations actually end up really having. See, a lot of these today, the Sybil scrubbing, etc., that is possible, as well as access, especially for general insurance, the kind of information that is available at the dealerships, at the outlets of purchases, etc. Maybe they're not supposed to have that, but a lot of the data has actually become really available to the insurance companies to mine the data.
You're right, sir.
And
Please go ahead.
that's why you have some incorrect marketing, etc., going on, which is probably not quite the right thing to do. But a lot of Sybil actually provides. Sybil is actually supposed to provide you information only when there is a loan application or an insurance application. But what they do end up doing is actually, I think they provide access to the entire data population for a fee. I don't know whether it is completely official or not, but that kind of information is actually illegal in many countries. But I think it's generally available. Access to that kind of data is available for organizations to mine.
Sir, you said few very interesting things. So let me, give you my views a little bit that I understand. One, I think in India, we have very strong personal identifiable, the PII data, as we call, controls. There are marketing agencies which have access to part data and use that very extensively for marketing, usually involves and gets results in terrible mis-selling. On the other hand, you have providers or product owners or insurance companies who have the product, who are taking the risk, who are desperate for new data outside their own data. So they're willing to pay for that data. And they end up misusing half-baked data, outdated data, or uncleansed data. Right? So you're right. I mean, if you take any of these data points and try and apply it, or all these data sources and try and apply it to a problem using machine learning, you'll end up usually very unsuccessful. And this is probably the trough of disillusionment across most of people who run large-scale machine learning programs, or even using data to say, okay, I can transform my business. I'll give you a contrarian view completely differently and see if this resounds with you differently. Let's take, for example, Tesla as a company. Tesla will be able to give you insurance for 1 hour's drive, 15 minutes drive, 10 minutes drive, which an insurance company will not be able to give you, because Tesla has so many data points in that car, including the way you touch the wheel with your hands, where your eyes are, how many IoT devices are running on that machine of Tesla, which is connected to a central nervous system, which is getting all these data points and able to predict how your engine should run at what speed. And if you were to take your hands off, it should take an autonomous control. And it has LiDAR and other technology all over itself, so it knows what the surroundings look like. So if you run into an accident, Tesla knows whether it's your fault or somebody else's fault. Now compare this to any general insurance company in the US. What do they know? Their data point is 0. They know you, they know your driving license, and they know your past performance across other claims. How will they ever win? So why machine learning or data gets important in any business, and this is where data gets important, is that data can provide ability for you to, if clean data, firstly, and secondly, in a format that can be consumed, can provide tremendous insights to the way you want to build your business. In India, for example, we have, the account aggregator format, which has just started now, which is used where you can actually get data from multiple sources on a permission basis. The whole concept to what you were saying, Raj, that Sybil is giving away data. I don't think Sybil, you can scrape Sybil very easily unless you're a member and you have paid access and everything else, and there's a purpose. But with the data aggregator format, you don't need to depend on Sybil. I can actually get real data of my account across all the banks that I hold it. And then I can decide, basis that data, what is the new algorithm on basis which I should take a decision on this customer. I don't need to consider past Sybil data, which could be incorrect, which would be half-baked, which could have wrong information passed into it because somebody decided to pass wrong information. Here I'm taking the real-time information. So the world actually is going to more real-time interfaces of data. This is proliferating the way machine learning is coming of age, and new players are coming into the market. So I hope I've taken a long-winded example and a route to try to get to the point that data is important, but the quality of data and the source of data and the recency of data is even more important. And then you can get your algorithms to do anything you want. It will work like magic. I mean, the way the industries are going to shift going forward. Your future, for example, if you hold an Android phone, Google actually knows how many steps you take, when do you eat, when do you sleep, when do you switch off the phone, are you on the phone or not? So tell me, when you go to your doctor and you give some information, you're giving doctor data which is convenient to you. But if Google was to give an API from its fit application to the doctor, how much more accurate will the doctor's diagnosis be? And how different would the insurance company look at you and say, this is what your medical insurance premium would be? So the world is moving to three things that we see are driving, and why we say machine learning is at its really pinnacle right now, is data, the amount of data and data points, APIs. And third thing, and the most interesting thing, is compute. When you have so much of data, we didn't have machines which could compute all of this earlier. Now you have compute on demand and at scale, and you have farms which can process this kind of data at great speed. So then you have consumers of this data. So insurance companies will start tapping onto this kind of data to start actually making recommendations. They will forget all their past data. It's irrelevant. It doesn't make sense, right? So it is going to be a very transformative moment for all of us as we speak, right? And do things.
It's interesting regarding what you said about Google capturing what we are doing, but even that must be based on a lot of past data for them to determine, statistically whether what I'm doing is good or not. Yeah. So do you have such data, or does anybody have such data?
Actually, all of them do, right? So, all of them do, except they comply to data privacy norms. So they do not relate the data to the name of the person or who this person is. So they hold the non-PII data as we speak. So, for example, right, you've used Google Maps, so you can determine between Bombay and Pune how long it will take you to go from point A to point B. But when you're doing that highway and it says, okay, you'll arrive at 2:33, you pretty much arrive within 4 or 5 minutes of that. And that's largely because it is calculated from all the Android phones in that same route and statistically proven when you'll go to go. So how different is insurance going to be? Not very different, right? So it is going to capture everything. I mean, when I'm speaking, it's hearing me. Even when the phone is off, they're able to pick up my voice, right? So we're having video conversations, having my picture. So it knows how my picture is. So this is again a part of how machine learning works. If my face looks like this, and does it look like I've just recovered from something, and my voice says I've just recovered from COVID, it can make the correlation and can pass on that information very scientifically to an API, which can then be used by an insurance company. So all the devices around us today are intelligent. And we say the smart world is about capturing device, getting more intelligent, and parsing and monetizing data. So everybody is going to monetize data. So at some point, all the advertising that you see, everything you type a Google search for diabetes and you go to Facebook, you get all recommendations for diabetes, right? And so you can see data is all over the place. Now, an insurance company has no data access today. And you still have to go down by insurance. The future of insurance companies is largely held by the licenses they hold, because they are licensed. If you do not license these industries, anybody can become an insurance player. Why would I buy an insurance? If I was driving a Tesla, I would buy a Tesla insurance because Tesla has all my data. It probably gives me the best deal, right? Why would I buy insurance from somebody else? So that's how the industry will change. And so there will be massive data sharing projects that go along for the machine learning business to work on it. Now, I could be wrong, but it's already happening in most parts of the world.
I'm gonna throw you a googly here, Ravi. What if I throw my phone away?
Sure, you can throw your phone away.
Nah, I could run, but will they still catch me?
Yeah, because there are so many satellites up in the sky which can capture a small nail on the ground. So if it's very interesting. So in the U.S., home insurance is a very large business, and you are quite experts in this business, and you do multiple industries within the insurance space. But if you look at the way home insurance got disrupted by one company, which actually put up satellites out there and took the entire image of all the roofs, and then went on to become one of the most aggressive, fast-growing insurance companies in the world, because they didn't have to go and send somebody to take a picture each time somebody's roof was leaking or something else. The satellite was always passing by every 45, 50 minutes and taking pictures, right? So you had a real-time data, and you could price real-time how that insurance should look like. So crop insurance, similarly, drones will decide that technology and the pricing of how you want to park crop. So the whole industry today is completely determined by billions of data points coming from various sources of data, which are voice, text, image, and from all kinds of IoT and other sensitive devices.
Had a small question that how do you think conversational AI is going to unfold?
It's a very thank you, sir. It's a very small aspect of this entire machine learning industry.
Right.
And it is just about evolving. But if you start looking at the big players in the space, Microsoft and Google, you pretty much can talk to their machines as you're talking to a human. And they are way, way ahead of the rest of the industry in making these conversations very comprehensible, advanced, and dialogues, right? So the next frontier that we're trying to cross is sarcasm, and understanding how machines can understand sarcasm, humor, and other expressions, right? So it is coming in a big way. But if you look at the first stages of what is happening is that, and you see most, because we are all in the financial industry. Conversational interfaces are of greatest importance today because they can handle problems at scale. That's one. Two, they're 24/7. Because they rely on machine learning and the data they're getting in, they're self-improving. So you can improve conversation quality by continuously focusing on the data points and the data that you're getting in. So this is a problem which can be solved, and it is being solved at scale, right? So we do millions of conversations, and we are able to handle with about 90 to 95% accuracy today. So everything from onboarding to closing an account to buying an insurance product to making claims, anything you can do, and it's all being done at scale, right? So this is one set of the problem. But this feeds into the larger issue, which is how can I consume all this data and make more intelligent next steps, the predictability, the pricing ability, the customization ability, right? So this is the gateway, and the floodgates are opening right now for a lot of things that are going to come into the industry.
How would you like to leave this on an intelligent note, Ravi?
I don't know, but human intelligence is fading quite fast these days. But we're working on very interesting projects with the ecosystem of players. Ideally, I'd like to have my avatar talking to you, and my avatar is coming. It's on its way. We're making that one, and there are many more avatars which are in, to have a very intelligent conversation around your finances, to be able to help you plan your finances, to help you plan your insurance. And because we have billions of conversations that we've heard over the years, we're trying to make this as intelligent as it can be. You'd probably like to have your own avatar. So when people are talking about metaverse, when they're talking about a whole world around which is more like living in the movies, or how do I describe it? It's like the movie Avatar, right?
Yeah.
You have an extension of yourself, and and live in a metaverse, which is very different, right? And you could be walking into a virtual Walmart or a virtual bank or a virtual insurance company. All this is coming.
Or
So,
like a matrix.
Yes, it's a lot like Matrix, So a lot of our products are named after the Matrix movie. So our AI, our AI is called agent is called Neo. Our middleware is called Morpheus because he controls everything. And then we have so the whole Trinity as our AI head brain. So this is real. So when you're talking about the future, we're really talking about within a few years. You can have few years, maybe 24 months, I would say. You can have my avatar talking to your avatar and having a perfectly knowledgeable conversation and solving our problems, right? So that's going to happen. So you now in the insurance industry, it can be even more interesting. You could have an avatar for a doctor. You could have an avatar for an advisor. You could have an avatar for an expert. And I could pick which avatar I want to work with and do that, right? So it is going to be a very fascinating next 24 months in space. So the biggest challenge, and with every technology, is how do you maintain these technologies from not running rogue? So there has to be a data governance, and there has to be a policing methodology which the industry agrees that these are the standards we provide to. Otherwise, every insurance company will come and say, listen, my insurance is the best, it covers everything, provides everything, a whole bunch of things which have no control. So we are entering a phase where we have got too much of data and the algorithms are getting smarter. If the algorithms run away with all the intelligence of the data, you and I will have a very tough time reining this in, and there'll be no control.
I
Yes.
remember, just a couple of months back, I wanted to get some information on how to go about a process with a bank, and I thought I'd ask its, AI chatbot that was hanging around there.
Yep.
And it frustrated me because whenever I asked something, it would take me to a web page which had tons of information on it, which I had to then go through. So,
Sure.
that was frustrating. And is that going to continue like that or what?
It's like me asking a question and the call center agent is saying, listen, I got to refer to my manual for everything. So you call you, please stay online, I'm putting you on hold. There's no difference between what you experienced and that call being redirected to another web page. So there is no machine learning out there. It's just a redirection. It's trying to read a few keywords. It's a bad job done, to be honest.
Right.
But having said that, right, that will change. That will change across the spectrum. A lot of institutions are currently working very hard to move from the first phase of where they are to where they can actually be. A lot of institutions have moved that far where they don't have any redirections at all. In fact, most web pages and some of the ones we are working with some of our clients are just like a Google-like search bar. Ask me anything. There is no more information. So it only responds to what you have and makes a few suggestions if it doesn't understand what you're saying. So world has actually moved to that model already, where the conversational systems are at a fairly advanced level of understanding at this point in time. So the problem is that you cannot take a generic conversational assistant and deploy it in a specialized field. You will get no success. So just like AccelTree is very specialized in the insurance business and you're working with alongside some banking clients, these are adjoining industries. If somebody was to say tomorrow, go into healthcare business, you know how difficult it's going to be for you. But at the same time, if somebody in healthcare was trying to come into your space, you know how difficult it's going to be for them. So your specialization of your data, understanding the workflows, what is being said, that is super specialization. And that's what you as a customer expect. So that means that's what the industry has to work towards. Go to experts and do the right thing. Don't take a generic bot from somebody else and plug it on your website and hope it works. It'll create a disaster. And that's exactly the experience level that you went to. Yep. So if you look at, so that's why I say, we work in a very narrow field. We don't do too many things for too many people. We do very few things because this is how complex the problem is. Otherwise, if I was to do something for the vada pav guy, make a bot for him, it will not turn out vada pavs. It will not happen because I don't know the vada pav industry, right? I know a very small part of an industry which has very limited data outside, and I'm working with that one. So algorithms and data are extremely key, and they are super specialized.
Great.
Actually, I had a question.
Hi, Chetan. You remember, Ravi, at the beginning of the conversation, I said we have Chetan from Canada who is with us in India today.
Nice to meet you.
That's him.
Very nice to meet you. It's very, very insightful. I mean, I've been making notes all this time, and sorry for not introducing myself before. What you said about the metaverse, I found quite interesting. My question is, how likely is it that people will actually go to the metaverse to interact with the, let's say, an avatar? The reason I ask this question is it is highly unlikely that I will, as a person.
How old are you, may I ask?
I'm not that young.
You look very young. You look very young, my friend. You look very young.
I am 43.
Oh, you look half that. Okay, that's wonderful. So you're fit for the metaverse, so you don't have to worry. You'll be there. So, but on a very serious note, you don't have much of a choice of understanding or knowing where you go to the metaverse. Simply being that your experiences on your smartphone will drag you into that. For example, and I'll take the example of my son, who is in his second year of engineering college, and he's doing electrical and computer science. And, he lives most of his time on Minecraft. You familiar with Minecraft?
Yeah.
Minecraft, which Microsoft bought. Now, Minecraft has millions of kids and people who like the game addicted to it. And there's a whole world where you build your cities and you play with all the kind of cucumbers and everything else, which looks very much artificial. It has its own shape and your own gold and your hay, and you keep trading this.
Yeah.
It's no different from metaverse, right? So you're actually living in a different farm mill kind of experience inside a game, and you're playing a multiplayer game.
Same as Roblox.
Yeah, exactly. Same with Roblox. So what you're exactly doing here is experiencing virtual reality in a space with multiple people, and you're living your life inside that. Now, what happens if you have an accident and an insurance company pops up right there with a claim and a process which can help you buy that for some fictitious money to start with and get you into the habit before you really start, dipping into the card that they have on file to buy insurance for some fake accidents that you really had. It's not too far-fetched, isn't it? So that's exactly where you start with the metaverse. But eventually, all these companies are going to have virtual addresses where you will dip into to experience buying and selling products and sampling products, right? And you will do that. And it's maximum 24 months out again. So, earlier when I started this company and we were talking about conversational assistants and, avatars, we said avatars are 10 years away. We're already in the age of avatars. Some of our clients have got avatars. And we're really going into something very different. We're going to virtual branches. We're going to virtual experiences, virtual advisors. So it's coming at a tremendous pace. So metaverse is real. Be ready for it. There's $1 trillion going into that industry, and it'll come up. It'll come.
Yeah, I just can't put a finger on it. I just can't put a concrete. I can't get a concrete understanding of how the metaverse can be leveraged by banks. Banks I can understand more, but by insurance companies.
Oh, yes.
To sell, let's say, auto insurance. So what you explained about Tesla, that was perfect. I mean, that's exactly what's happening there, right?
Yeah.
And I think all other major auto manufacturers will follow suit.
Yes.
And thereby making the Geicos and all basically go by the wayside, unless they also evolve and have deals with these manufacturers. So besides the point, but that's real. That's understandable. Yeah, the metaverse.
Yeah. Let me simplify that. Your assumption is somebody's going to drive from point A to point B. I could literally take a drive in the metaverse from point A to point B in my virtual car.
Yes.
And buy a product and get it delivered by a drone to my doorstep. I'm not going to be stepping out.
Yes.
So that is the difference, because we'll all be wearing these funny glasses, which have that entire, VR effect and give you that entire immersive VR experience.
Yeah.
And we'll be moving around like zombies in our own space, in our own rooms, and permanently work from home and school and whatever. Everything's permanent. You're not moving around. So the insurance company does not have cars to insure because you're not moving around. So their model will shift to these virtual cars that you're driving to help you buy those virtual insurances, or what worse. I mean, God knows what.
See, the best part is this can't even be regulated. I mean, how do you regulate this?
Oh, no worries. Google will come with a Google map, and it'll come with somebody will come with a virtual cop out there. So all of this is going to get bizarre as you and I speak.
You know what? I can understand what you said about the metaverse in terms of avatars, in terms of augmented reality. So as you know, Apple is not metaverse friendly at all.
Yep.
Right? So they're focused more on augmented reality, not virtual reality.
Yes.
That I can understand. That makes sense. There, you use Apple glasses, you put it on, you meet your advisor through your glasses, you talk to him, the virtual advisor. So they say, okay, listen, I want to transfer this much money from here to there. I want to pay my taxes. I want to do this, that, done. That's clean. That's understandable. And that's not in the metaverse. But that's an avatar in augmented reality. There's a difference.
Yes.
So there, what you're saying makes sense to me completely. But metaverse,
I have a boy, and I refuse to give my credit card to him for exactly this reason, because I don't know what he'll end up buying. He might end up buying insurance for his cats on the metaverse, for all you know.
I believe that.
So it's a very different world, and who would have imagined that we'll be in lockdowns? The whole world will be in lockdowns. There'll be nobody flying, right? Moving places. Our meetings are going to be like this. Tomorrow, this meeting can be so beautifully done in augmented reality as well.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And in a different space.
Yeah.
So this is all machine learning at scale, by the way.
So what projects are you working on now? I mean, I can see what's on the website. What's not on the website?
There's hardly anything on our website. So you don't find much of what we do on our website. But yeah, we were very domain specialist. So that's very clear. And to all our clients, we are moving to drive autonomous finance. And to autonomous finance in every sense. So you should be able to speak free. So the input of conversational and the intelligence behind the data and driving it to the end to end, right? To help you plan, execute whatever you have to do. So our clients today are existing incumbents plus modern digital people who have never been a bank before. They're modern digital banks or those kind of stuff that are coming up. So the experience level is very different from each one of them. And of course, their outcomes that they're expecting are very different too. But the big thing, a big focus for us is autonomous. Drive everything autonomous so that the machines can take a call all the time and more fairly accurately than humans would.
Very cool. Okay. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ravi. I think we should let you go into your own little metaverse space.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I like Chetan. I don't look forward to 2 years from now. I still want that real handshake, if it were permissible.
Totally appreciate that, and I really thank you all. It's been fascinating to participate with you and share a little bit of what we are seeing. I'm sure you will be seeing a lot more than we do because you have a lot more rich heritage and lots of clients globally. And hopefully we can work together to learn from that and see how we can improve some part of the next future years.
Absolutely. Thanks. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Bye for now.